we also have the duty not to infringe the IP rights in the process. It is in fact the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.
From a standpoint of intellectual property, where in God's green earth or the Constitution are any of those designed to be rights that belong to the manufacturer rather than rights that belong to the owners of those two John Deere tractors?
Last month, I did a video on Echelon Bikes and Future Home. These are two companies that sent out firmware updates to their products that connect to the internet that disabled functionality that used to be free at the time of purchase. With Future Home, they sent out a firmware update after they went bankrupt that said that you have to pay the new company we're creating $117 per year if you want to have all the functionality that you had before we sent out this firmware update. Echelon Bike sent out a firmware update to their exercise bikes that disabled the bike from working with third-party software. When you use the free version of this, you also would get ads on it, and hey, look at this, they have a subscription model, imagine that. I don't pretend to speak for everyone, but I don't want to see ads on a fucking treadmill. It's a personal preference of mine. That's why when I'm at the gym, if I see Fox and MSNBC on the television, I'll find the remote, change it over to a live stream of my koi fish. And if I can't do that because it's not a smart TV, that's what Mitch Altman's TV Begon is for. A lovely open source device that ensures that I'm never advertised to at my gym. People are getting tired of this nonsense. So Fulu Foundation, a nonprofit started by myself and Mr. Kevin O'Reilly, the executive director, a man without whom we would not have a lot of the right to repair progress we have today, he and I announced a $20,000 bounty for the first person who puts up a repair for this. Now, there's a reason that I use the word repair here, and it's very important. When you see words like illegal hacking or breaking digital locks come up, these are words that have been set forth by our adversaries, by people that don't want us to own what we bought and paid for. When he does that, that's a business model. When I say I want the device to be able to work again, that's considered illegal hacking. That man is an asshole. And I don't accept the premise of assholes, nor do I choose to use their vocabulary, because the moment you start using their vocabulary, you have lost the battle before you even finish your sentence. This bicycle used to work with third-party applications. They sent out a firmware update that stopped it from working with third-party applications. That's a bug. That belongs in a bug report database. Mr. Richard Witherspoon III fixed it. As a result of his repair, he won a $20,000 bounty. And I'd like to show you the bicycle working with his app.
This is my project with the firmware fix branch. I will now plug the bike in. It is currently off. Okay, it's on, it's flashing. Plugged in. I will now go to the Echelon app. This is a stock one to show you that the firmware is working. The firmware update. Here is the device firmware, same as my last video where it's not working. Firmware is up to date. We'll now close the Echelon app. If we go back here, we can see my phone is selected, and I will run the project on my phone. We can see that it installs. This is it. It is just a branch of my existing app from the store, so it goes through the regular download procedures. We can see the bike. I will hit start workout, allow, scanning for the bike. You heard the beep. It is now working. I will rotate the wheels. You can see it's at 6 miles an hour. I'll go much faster. You can see it goes down. And finally, here is the resistance knob going down and then going up. Now I will stop this, and you should see that it saves the data like it was previously. There it is. There are the metrics, just like the app worked before Echelon went and broke it.
I know a lot of you are probably rushing to the comments section right now looking for the video description. Where can I download this, Lewis? This is great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to fix my bike. And I'd love to see you fix your bike. But there is no link in the comments, or the pinned video comment, or the description. because what he did is against the law. It's illegal. He broke the law, and he broke a law that could get him put in prison for 3 to 5 years if he shared it with all of you. Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, otherwise known as the DMCA, 4 letters that always seem to come up when somebody's ruining your day. I promise that was not supposed to rhyme. That just came to me. This law has a provision, Section 1201, that says that if you bypass a technical protection measure, otherwise known as a digital lock, you have broken the law. And if you show other people how to do that, you've broken the law to the point where you can be put in prison for 3 to 5 years. I am not kidding. If you don't believe me, read this paper from Harvard Law School's Cyber Law Clinic. Now, there is an exemption to this for repair, but that only applies to personal repair. Every year, everybody has to go to the Copyright Office and say, "Please, may we be able to fix our devices? Can I just get rid of the ads on my treadmill without going sent to El Salvador?" It's pathetic. It's sad that we have to go through this in a free country to be able to fix what we bought and paid for. But we do. And every year, luckily, there is an exemption process where we fight back and forth with all these people like this guy.
We also have the duty not to infringe the IP rights in the process. It is, in fact, the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.
And this guy.
I just put into my Google search engine, hack my Xbox drive. Here's the one that comes up first. If you're tired of paying $60 for a new Xbox game or waiting years for them to get cheaper, you should probably mod your system. That's literally the first thing that comes up. Flash the drive to allow you to play discs that violate the copyright. Is this a vector by which people can use it? Well, literally, that's the first thing that comes up on your Google search when you put in hack your Xbox drive. In this case, Google is your friend. Find the answer, hack your drive, flash it, and run discs that you want to play for less than $60. It's right there. First output.
I would encourage Mr. Reed to go ahead and give that site $60, and then they're going to sell your credit card number on the blacknet. It's a scam. There isn't such a hack. There are a lot of wonderful sites that will trick you and make you think that they will help you hack your Xbox. They'll happily take your credit card number and then not help you hack your Xbox. The Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 haven't been cracked, so that's a non-issue.
We fight back and forth with all these people who think that we should not have the ability to fix what we bought and paid for, and we win. But the problem is that this is only a temporary exemption, and it's only for personal repair. He can fix it for himself, but if he shows you how to do it, that's not part of the exemption. He can go to jail. This is like saying you're allowed to cure cancer, but if you show anybody else how to cure cancer, that's punishable by 5 years in prison. This is a horrible, horrible law, and it needs to be reformed. There's a lot wrong with it. Now, I know many of you are probably saying, "Louis, I don't care what the law says. I don't care what Harvard law says. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way somebody would end up in prison for that. He should fight that." And yeah, if it was me, I'm not married, not like I'm putting money towards my kid's college education. What the fuck do I have to lose? I'd be happy to do that. I'm crazy. So I'd be willing to do that. But most people are not, or at least not as crazy as I am. And it's not me that would be being asked to do this, because I'm not the one that came up with the solution. Richard is. And when your average engineer hears that there is even 1% legal ambiguity over whether or not they could be sent to federal prison for fixing a treadmill, they say, never mind. Fuck out of here with that shit. Which is the sane and standard response from normal people that have lives and family and don't feel like spending 3 to 5 years. Because again, legal fees, you can always go fund me legal fees. Can't go fund me away out of prison. If we want to be able to claim that the United States is land of the free, home of the brave, not land of the free, trademark, terms and conditions apply, then there needs to be no legal ambiguity that when somebody fixes a treadmill or fixes an air conditioning plug-in on an application for a thermostat, that they have broken the law. There should be no legal ambiguity. The world that we live in should be one where if I put 20 lawyers in front of me, every single one of them laughs me out of the room when I ask if I have broken the law by making a treadmill work with the application it worked with when I bought the treadmill or exercise bike. You get the point. There are many engineers out there that don't bother challenging this because why the fuck should I worry about going to prison for 3 to 5 years when I don't have to? The people that make the plugins for Home Assistant, for Haier and Mazda, these people roll over the moment that they are challenged by these companies. And I understand why. Because they do not want to spend 5 years of their life in federal prison or 2 years in court because they made a free Home Assistant plugin for people to control their air conditioner. If you fix something that a manufacturer has bricked in the United States of America, you should be getting a gold fucking medal, not a legal bill for $30,000 and the potential to go to federal prison. Now, what can you do to help in this instance? That's a great question. Fulu Foundation is a new nonprofit that I've started with people who have been very, very helpful in pushing right to repair around the country. And one of the things that we'd like to do is reform the DMCA. This is a law that has a lot of issues, and the biggest one is Section 1201. We do not think that there should ever be legal ambiguity when you fix something that you own, nor should there be legal ambiguity when you show other people how to fix what they own. That is something that should be celebrated in the United States, not scorned. The concept that we're talking about here of it being illegal to break a digital lock in something that you bought and paid for, the concept of even referring it to that is ridiculous on its face. Imagine I buy my house, got a fixer-upper piece of shit, but it's got a really nice balcony. Imagine I go to the balcony, but I don't have a key to it because he never gave me the key. I go to try to open the door, and he says, you can't do that. You got to pay me $500 a month. So I say, fuck that. I pick the lock, and I get access to my balcony. Can you imagine if I did that and people showed up to take me to prison? When you buy a house, it's your house. You own the house. As a result of you owning the house, you have access to all the rooms inside the house. You own the property, you own the land, you own the door, which means you also own the lock and you reserve the right to pick it. The same should be true of your digital devices. Unfortunately, it's not. This law makes it so, and we need to start pushing back against this. Now you're going to ask, what can I do right now? Well, there's going to be legislation that we are going to try to push through Congress to try and get this changed, to try to get this reformed. And when that legislation comes out, we are going to need all of your help messaging your representatives and telling them why it is that you support this as often as possible. But most importantly, when we are speaking to our representatives and we are fighting with people that speak like this,
legislation is in search of a problem that does not exist.
Or
this is legislation in search of a problem.
I want to be able to demonstrate that they're wrong. That's what ConsumerRights.wiki is for. ConsumerRights.wiki is a website that lists every single instance of a company doing this shit. I want to have a simple button on the homepage, ownership revoked, that when that day comes, when Kevin O'Reilly and the lobbyists that we curate are sitting in a senator's office and the guy says, is this really a problem? I can click and immediately say, here are 2,000 devices that could otherwise be fixed if not for this shitty law. I need people to help me curate that website. I need people to help write articles on all of this. We have an article for Future Home. We have an article for Echelon Bikes. And we're going to have articles for many, many more. There are thousands of articles on the site right now. We're going to demonstrate that this is a problem. And we are going to do everything in our power to reform the DMCA. There should be no ambiguity when an engineer fixes a thermostat or an exercise bicycle that there's a chance of him going to federal prison as a result of what he did. We need to change the law. And Fulu Foundation is here to try and make it happen. But it can't happen without the help of all of you. There's a newsletter. I'm going to link it in the comment down below. When this law gets presented, we are going to ask you to show up, to speak to your representatives, to email them, to call them, to do everything in your power to get that pushed through. And if you think that doesn't do anything, think again. I got a message while I was doing this video on Signal, sitting there in my notifications unread right now, that the hearing on those AI-powered surveillance cameras has been canceled because so many people signed up that they said, fuck it, we're done with it. Your voice matters. You have a say, but you have to use it. And you have to be willing to put in the time. Even if it's only 10 seconds to use a contact form or pick up a phone. It does something. People didn't even show up to this hearing. They probably simply saw thousands of people signed up to say we don't like this particular piece. It only works if people write the articles so that we have the evidence that we need to be able to present arguments that counter the bullshit that these people say. Are you willing to help me? I hope you are. The guy who made the Future Home one, he doesn't live in the United States, so that one has a little bit of a happier end to the story. You'll hear from that soon. There are people in Congress right now that are champions for this type of legislation, that believe that you should be able to fix what you bought and paid for, that think the idea of going to federal prison for fixing something is ridiculous.
If I remove from my BMW, at least during certain models, I remove the radio, unplug it, and then plug it back in, simply because I was fiddling around with the dash, I now have to go back to the dealer to reinstall it. Similarly, the transmission example, I've got two John Deere tractors. One's got a busted engine, the other's got a busted transmission. Currently, they will prohibit you from moving the transmission from one to the other. From a standpoint of intellectual property, where in God's green earth or the Constitution are any of those designed to be rights that belong to the manufacturer rather than rights that belong to the owners of those two John Deere tractors?
So those are a bunch of different situations, and so I think there would be underlying facts that differ with each, right? So we started on the iPhone, and I was going to point out that iPhone will actually give you the tool to synchronize it. In those other situations, I don't know the business justification for it, but if it's not an IP problem, like how is that an IP problem, right? So if that's locked up with the TPM and you have to bypass the TPM, well then that's a violation of 1201. So that's how they can lock.
So what you're saying is that Congress has created impediments to the right to repair. Mr. Roberts, would you say that is correct? That in fact the right to repair, were Congress never to have done anything since George and Thomas were our presidents, so to speak, knowing those two presidents, we'd be able to do things we're not able to do because they're now prohibited by acts of Congress.
We're going to work with them. We're going to work with every single person in Congress that believes this is bullshit. Because this is one of those things, one of those small issues that really does transcend the left-right dichotomy that we have going on right now. Whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. I've never met a Republican that wants to see an ad get stuffed into their treadmill. I never met a Democrat that wants to see ransomware installed in the thermostat. This is bipartisan. We're going to ensure it stays that way, and we're going to win. But that's going to happen with the help of all of you. Are you with me? If you are, newsletter. Sign up. Help me out when the time comes. Thank you very much for taking the time. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.
We also have the duty not to infringe the IP rights in the process. It is in fact the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.